Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Are
I
we
think,
live?
Thomas, I think we're live.
Yeah, I think so now. There are a few mishaps.
Yeah, it's always tricky with these
There we
new
go.
technicals, but this seems to be working. Hey, Nicholas, how's it going?
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going, guys?
Going really well. It looks like we're live. We're just figuring out this tech setup with Crowdcast here, but I think we figured it out, and we should be live. So wherever you guys are watching from, like, let us know who you are, where you're calling in from. Put it in the comments. You might see it on LinkedIn, on Crowdcast. This is being streamed in multiple places, and we're trying to we're hoping we've set all the tech up the right way.
It's always tricky, especially I've done this with Restream and a different streaming service, and then going through different socials. It's always a bit complex.
Yeah, hopefully it all funnels down to this point though, where we're we're at the webinar talking. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining, everyone. As you can see, we have the chat on the right. Feel free to throw in any questions throughout the conversation here today. My name is Nicholas, and I'm representing HR Tech Meetup. And today I have with me Kristjan and Thomas. So please introduce yourselves, guys.
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Kristjan. I'm joining in from Reykjavik. Great to see you guys here. And, you know, I'm just super excited today to talk about AI, automation, how people in HR are struggling, and show you guys some things and hear what you, Thomas, Nicholas, and the rest of you think about some of the things that other people have been working on and how it's been working for them.
Awesome. Also looking forward to this discussion. I mean, AI is, of course, my main topic. So a little bit about myself. I am an HR professional, 15 years going back, but actually kind of pivoted towards AI the last few years. So 2 years ago, I started AI for HR. So nowadays I hold lectures, courses on this topic, kind of mostly focus on HR and helping HR kind of transition into this kind of new way of working in the future. But at the same time, I'm also, as of this fall, in the creation of a startup myself. So hopefully in a few years, I'll be in your position, Kristjan.
Definitely. Well, everything starts somewhere. An idea is typically the first move.
Definitely.
So I think we're starting off with a little bit of a quick teaser clip for what we might be looking into being an everyday process of an HR person in the future.
Yeah, I think it would be great to just kind of kick it off. So basically, I'm going to share my screen and show you a video and have a quick dialogue around it. That would be great. And just for context, so I run a company called 50 Skills. We are helping HR teams build workflows that are actually working for them. And then they can add AI where it makes sense. And, you know, sometimes that means that an AI agent completes a task fully automatically. And sometimes there's a human in the loop, you know, an AI drafts a response and you just approve it or tweak it. And I'm going to show you one example of things that our team has been working on and what some of our customers are using. So I'm just going to share the screen here really quickly, share the entire screen. Let's just do it like this, and it should work now. You can see the screen, right? Okay, so just look at what you're seeing here. So somebody goes into the chat. This could be like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. And they write something like, what are my health benefits and how do I access them? And the second later, just notice what happens here. Second later, the AI will give you a response of what the health benefits are. But what it also does, and this is kind of interesting, it knows the knowledge of the company and it can do that. What it also does, it says, hey, if you've purchased something like a gym membership, you know, just tell us what kind of benefit you're claiming, the amount you paid. And if you have a receipt, you can just upload it here in the chat. So what the person does goes, great, that's exactly what happened. I just bought a gym membership. You know, it was $1,000 or something, an annual membership. And I'm going to put it in here as a receipt. And what happened is, great, I'll just submit this for you. And what happens here is that it automatically creates a person in this workflow here. This is my colleague Brian here who's filling this out. Creates this person in this workflow and triggers the workflow itself to start. Now, in this case, what does this workflow do? Somebody just put in a receipt. So it checks what kind of receipt is it? Is it a gym membership or something else? Seconds later, it has an AI do the work, typical work that a human would do. Is this receipt legitimate? Does it match the amount reported? And is it within the limits? And then it just checks if it's approved or not based on the check of the AI. And if it's approved, it will just send an email seconds later to the person that filled it out telling them, hey, your gym membership was approved. It's going to get reimbursed in the next payroll processing that goes out with you. So just to kind of simplify this, whatever type of request you have, you can just go into your AI, whatever AI you use, Copilot, Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, you put it in there, and it will know what to do. It will tell you what info they need to actually run the process if you want to run some type of process or employee request, whatever that is. In the background, it's going to run this workflow that we saw, and it's going to do the next step, for example, letting you know if it's approved or not. And that could be with an email or on your Teams channel or whatever. So I just wanted to kind of show you this as an example of what you can already do today, and just kind of hear your thoughts and hear thoughts from everybody watching if this is interesting to you, or get questions from you on what can it do, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I have so many questions from my end as well, but I'm hoping we'll get some questions from the audience as well. But I mean, first off, this is pretty futuristic. I believe in many HR leaders out there's opinion of where they are right now. So I mean, how easy is it really to build this? What kind of are the prerequisites to have?
Yep, that's a great question. Like, how do you actually do this? So the fundamentals are need to be in place for it to work, right? Because if you ask an AI, hey, I want to get something reimbursed, like, how does it know? It doesn't know until you've actually noted down the knowledge for the AI of saying, this is how it works with reimbursements. This is the grants that we give. This is our employee handbook to answer everything. Like, you need to take the time in writing up your company policies in order for workflows to work. Then there's the other type of work you need to do. You need to have some sort of a tool, workflow builder. That's one of the things that we offer, where you can go into the tool and actually build those workflows. You can use templates, or you can use some best practices just to get started. You can start with just one thing. Like, it doesn't have to be like everything at once. One thing, like employee requests or something. You map it up and you just put it out there. You put in the instructions, and I can show you exactly how this works in a second, on how it should work. And then you just connect it with the AI tools that are accessible in your workspace. And when you do that, you can just tell your employees, look, if you guys need anything, sure, you can go to the company portal and fill something out, or you can talk to a manager. But if you prefer, you can also just ask your AI. It will know the response. It will go the right way. And what a lot of people are starting to do is, instead of trying to figure everything out at once, just start with one process, and then another process, which is that if you don't know the answer, collect it, put it in a to-do list, so you can make sure you tackle those one by one. And so the next time somebody asks it, it's all covered.
Okay, it sounds simple enough. But I get a few questions here, because I mean, I tried the tool once, and I kind of, from the demo here, it's quite similar to other kind of like Make or Zapier or these kind of automating tools. What is the kind of key difference to your tool, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can share the tool really quickly, but the thing that we really strive for is making a tool simple enough for everyone to be able to use it. So the reality is, most of these tools, if you look for, build a workflow or workflow builder or something, you'll find tools like N8N and Make and Zapier and Power Automate and others. And those are typically tools used by very technical people, like your kind of nerds at the office or the tech team. And so how processes historically have been built is that you have to take a meeting with your tech team, explain to them what you want to build. And if they have time, which they typically don't, they might build a version of that for you. And the problem with that is that what you then get, which doesn't come right away, it comes like weeks later, is something that it's not quite what you thought about. You want to iterate on it. And because you don't have the ability to do it, there's always this time lag. And so we want to give basically the governance to the people who are doing the work to be able to describe what they do, how they do it, make it simple enough. Now, the reason why we think we've been able to achieve that and why we're on the right track of doing that is because our processes that you build, they're only intended for people to move through them. And so I can share my screen really quickly to show you what I mean by that. But I think I think those kind of items are kind of critical. So let me just present this screen really quickly here again, and just kind of, and this is just like this talk, by the way, for those of you who are listening, this is not something we've figured out. Like, we're not going to walk through like slide by slide on everything. We're just going to open up the product and show you stuff live and get questions and move into it. So let's just let's just take this health benefits process here as an example. So this looks complex when you look at it, right? But when you kind of go into it, just like it's a form, let's just click the form itself. This is how the form looks like. You can just click something and change the text. You can click an image and change it or upload your own. You can decide what questions to ask. You can change what options are there. And it's super simple to edit it. And once somebody fills out this form, then the next thing will trigger. So somebody filled out this form, then the next thing will trigger. And you can decide, we had a question there. Is this a gym membership? And then this will kind of flow down for these actions. Is it a flu vaccination? It will flow down for these actions. Or if it's a treatment, it will go a different path. Now, the gym membership demo that I just showed you, it's literally like this. It's super simple. If it is a gym membership, move forward here, and then just run this prompt. And you can basically configure what that prompt should be, just like if you would put it into ChatGPT. So these building blocks of building this, they're really not hard. And the only thing you need to do then...
If we stop right there, you created like an agent to help them create the prompt for you, and then you send it to a language model.
Precisely. Whenever you want to add some steps here, you just click the plus and you can pick a bunch of things. One of them are AI agents, and you can have agents that do whatever type of work you want. Some agents can review receipts, and because they're just doing a predefined task, so they're kind of going, look at this request, look at the receipt, and you can either decide if it's true, if it's valid or not valid, and then do different things based on your conclusion. And the good thing is that you'll see all the people moving through it. In this demo, it's always the same person, but here you'd basically see different names of people in your org going through this process. And you can click them and see exactly how they travel through the process. So you see, okay, this here got triggered here on September 12th. This is a gym membership. This is what the AI prompt did. And it came to the conclusion that it's approved. And so you can kind of see exactly how every single person moving through each workflow, like what specifically happened there.
And how does the connection goes here? I mean, I think many in HR are thinking, okay, how does that integrate with all our other processes, payroll systems and stuff like that? So do all the integration flow easily or?
Exactly. So basically it's meant to integrate with everything. So if we simplify it, it's a couple of steps. One of them is like, how do you integrate with things? But if we just take one step back and look at like, how do people know how to fill these things out? Well, you can put them on a portal and just tell your employees, just go to this portal and fill out whatever you have in mind, right? You wanna request new types of equipment. Just fill out this form. And when you fill the form out, that's gonna trigger the process, right? Now, the process itself, like you mentioned, like, does it have integrations? It can integrate with anything. So let's just look at this large onboarding journey here. That looks really complicated, right? But like, it's just basically collecting information about the person who's joining, creating contracts, sending it to e-signing, and then creating users in whatever system you want. And what's interesting here is when you're like creating users, you can reuse information from anywhere. So for example, here in the first form that somebody fills out, you're asking them like, what's your gender? And because they filled out the gender itself, you basically have a form here. And there are all these questions, and one of them was, what's your gender? And because you have it, you can basically map all these fields together. So it's like you can build complicated forms like this onboarding one, or you can build super simple ones, like if somebody's going on parental leave, like what should happen? How do you actually build a simple workflow for that? Or whatever it is that your workplace has going for you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've done this before. I've helped HR teams kind of develop and understand the processes, but many times what I see in my experience the last years, especially, is kind of that within HR, the tech savviness isn't really there. I think it's not about interests. I think it's more about you're unsure of what this is and how complex it seems. I think that's the same problem with all of these automation tools. So how do you really help people get on board and get started to really see the value of it?
It's a great question. I think that's true. Like, I think the kind of old HR world, this wasn't part of the task that they had. But I think the reality now is that when we have AI in our hands, right? We have these tools in our hands. We're basically seeing these products pop up everywhere that are enabling people to do something that they couldn't do before. So if you think about like Lovable, for example, in Sweden, I actually met with Anton a couple of weeks ago, where he was, the CEO there, but they were basically like built this amazing product where you can just put in a prompt and we'll build a product for you, something that only developers could have done before. I see the same things happening with processes, right? Like before, processes were built by technical people. Now it's getting so much easier to map them up and build them and run them. It might look tricky on the surface because it's not something people have done before. But once you dip your toe in the water, we're seeing people. And I think it's like, I think my favorite example is like this event that we had earlier this year, where we had Emmeline. She came to this event, and she's an HR manager at a company called Iceland Hotels. So it's like 30 hotels or something in Iceland. And she basically just showed this sketch. Like this was what she wanted to build. And like this is her way of mapping up a process. Like if this happens, that should happen. This is kind of her thought process of how a certain workflow should be. And she was able to go into a system, build her first workflow ever, add like AI to automatically go over something that people did before. And it was saving her hundreds of hours. And like, that's the type of empowerment that we're seeing again and again and again, people being able to do something that they actually weren't able to do before. I think that's really the magic here. But you need to take time. Like you need to take time and try it. Start with something super simple. And sure, our team, like there's videos, there's YouTubes, there's tutorials, there's even like services available for people that don't want to build it. They want to get the team to help. But the reality is it isn't as hard to do as people think now that you have this tech and these options to help you out with it.
Is it we were talking about lovable and vibe coding, and because I don't know if most people know about what it is yet. So vibe coding, really, it's about prompting an LLM and then returning, you get a website or a mobile app or stuff like that. So it really codes everything for you, even design as well. So is that really already possible within are you like a vibe coding for automating processes? Is it possible to really prompt it and then it will create as well? Or is that a kind of roadmap further ahead, would you say?
Yeah, so great question. It's always great when you get questions about something you haven't launched live officially, but but as a company that's trying to make it, we want to make it the easiest workflow builder in the world to use, right? And as a company doing that, then obviously that is the path to go for. And we already have like a bunch of prototypes where you can go prompt and you actually get a fully fledged workflow. But we don't want to launch it live in the product until like we know that it works for all these things. And like typically people don't say, oh, build me a workflow like this that will do this and this and that, like the way that a computer understands it. They typically just say, build me an awesome workflow, or build me an awesome like journey for my company, or the top 5 or something. And so it needs to be able to work with the language that people like to use when they're building these things.
Yeah, because I mean, nowadays we're also talking about agents, and I mean, you build agents within your platform, and for people who aren't really sure about the difference. So with large language model or generative AI as ChatGPT and Claude, you really prompt and you get a response. With agents, you still prompt, but the agent does more things autonomously and oftentimes more complex. But the issue today, most of the time, is that and as you say, if you are really not sure about how you prompt, the end result is going to be very difficult to oversee and understand, and a lot of variation, a lot of problems along the way. So I think what I've understood from your system is that really you're guiding the prompts very detailed, and I think that's one of the key factors here. Or what would you say about that?
Yeah, 100%. And let's just talk about, like, I think one way I like to describe it is just how the world is changing. So the world that we've lived in so far has always been what I kind of call turn-based. So basically you have a request somewhere for anything you can think of. Employee request or something you're asking for. You have to wait for a person on the other side to have time to review it and come to a conclusion on what happens next. And what you can do now, you can have an AI agent take a look at that same information, all the stuff that's submitted in a form or put in a chatbot, whatever it is, and it could come to a conclusion itself. And that's automation, because then the person that fills it out doesn't have to wait. It just happens in real time. And it can happen for any type of employee request. It can happen for any type of issue that's submitted. It can happen for a lot of things that we do at work. So what is happening now in all aspects of the workforce is, instead of hiring people to just do work, you're going to be hiring people to map up their processes, add AI agents within those processes, and then govern them and make sure they're doing the job right. And that doesn't mean like putting everything on full automation. You can have a human in the loop. You can have an employee request about any type of issue. you can have the agent look at that request, draft the response, and send you the suggested response. And you as a manager can go, yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. No, I don't agree. And you can tell it why, and it can learn and get better. And what's important there is like, this is the path forward. And once you agree 100 times out of 100, like you can start to think about, maybe we should put this on autopilot and take a look at it every 1,000 times, or whatever it is that you think is realistic there. And
yeah, so, because one of the, sorry, yes, because I mean, one of the main problems is hallucinations, right? That the system tend to create a different answer than you actually wanted or intended it. So how do you kind of interact or counteract?
Yeah.
That?
So hallucinations is a great question, and it's something that everyone is facing in the LLM world, because these AIs, they're what's called the probabilistic models. Like they're trying to find the most probabilistic reality. So the way you ask questions and the information you put in is key in order to control the hallucinations, right? If you ask it online, who is Kristjan or Thomas or Nicholas, it might give you a wrong response if it doesn't find the right answers. But if you build a workflow that's really structured, and you control exactly what the inputs are and what the structured outputs are, and you can give it like, give us a rating and give us a reasoning, and you can do all sorts of conditions that if it's going off path, do something. You can get those numbers down to a score that is completely okay, like way more likely to have the right results than a human would, for example. And we've often done this. We've checked like, let's take a look at, let's say, people applying for a job somewhere, and see what kind of ratings recruiters gave these individuals. And then let's try and see what an AI chatbot configured the right way would have done, looking back at 1,000 or 10,000 applications, and see if it compares. It turns out it does compare, looks very similar. And when it doesn't, and it goes off, you can often check, why did it go off? And often the AI is spotting something that the human didn't see.
I mean, Thomas, I do believe, and I think,
in your experience, what does it take to kind of get things off the ground? Because I mean, we're talking about way forward in the future here. We're building things out. You've worked with teams, many teams in person. So what does it take to at least approach this stage where you're automating and using AI to get a lot more efficient?
100%. So let me just again share just a little bit quickly here how to get started, right? And I would say get started with something simple, right? Find something that you can just put live in a number of hours. So those of you watching, what could you build today and finish today? What would that be? And that could be like your first process that you ever build. Just try it on your own. That could be like a birthday greeting. It doesn't have to be something that changes everything radically at your workplace. Just build a birthday greeting. Like, it's a simple process. It ensures that, your every employee, like the supervisor of every employee, gets a notification a week before their birthday. And they have a budget of $10, whatever it is, to buy a book or something meaningful and leave it on their desk. It's a reminder. Super simple journey. But once you get the hang of something simple like that, which is like low complexity, it's low impact, then you can go, oh, interesting. I have found comfort and to do this. What could be like 2 or 3 processes that would kind of deliver some impact? And that could be like a travel request or some sort of employee request, or somebody's leaving the company, offboarding. Like, just how does offboarding work at our company? If somebody's leaving, what do we do? Somebody's joining, how does that work? And just take one of those. And then you've already done this simple, low impact, low complexity. Now you start on the next one, and soon you start to realize how this works. Like, every single process you build goes through those same steps. You have to start by mapping up how you're doing it today. You have to map up how you think you might be able to do it with this AI tool with you. And then you just try and build it and see how that flow would work through. You go live with it and you see the results. And once you do that, you get the comfort of getting the next one and the next one and the next one. And if I kind of go through, like, what are these things that people are building? Like, they're building like all sorts of things. Like, this is actually a survey where we checked, not a survey, sorry, real data on what our customers are building with this thing. Like, if I just kind of pop this slide up here, like, they're building onboarding processes, offboarding, they're doing employee requests, they're doing CV screening, they're doing like employee appraisals. Like, there could be a random message sent to everybody once a month, ask them if there's an employee that deserves an anonymous appraisal. Like, anything you can think of. But the thing that's really stood out for us, without going into the depths of all of these, is that this other chart here. Like the reality is, every one of us, we're working in HR, we're all dealing with so many unique type of processes. And that's like if I kind of go into those types of processes, like if you're in HR, you need to solve like all of this stuff. You need to onboard people, and you need to do cross-boarding and offboarding, and you need expenses. You might have an ERP or an HRS with a bunch of functionality. And you can buy systems that help you with individual components here. And those systems might be great, and they might give you a lot of ROI. But with this tool, what you can do is that you can build a workflow for all of these things that you don't already have, you don't already feel is there, and hundreds or more. And you have that power in your own fingertips of starting to automate it. And that's really a powerful thing, like having the ability to do that. And so you end up with something like, if I just go here into the product, you end up with like, if I just go for here examples, you have like a ton of these workflows, like employee grant application or onboarding or birthday messages or reimbursements or hundreds of others. It's just how you run your business. And if you click any of them, you'll see like how you actually do these things, how they work, all the people that have gone through this process. And if you click any of them, you'll see exactly how that workflow got run. And that this is like a really mature way of running your business, of showing your stakeholders and supervisors like how you're doing things, getting other people in your team to know how you actually do things in the workflow, in the workforce. And if anyone has a better idea of how it could be done, like change it, change the prompt, just do whatever makes sense to you. And like that is sort of this phase that we're moving into.
Your problem is your aim kind of to replace HR systems, or are you? How do you fit with the current ecosystem?
So it's a mixture. Like we do integrate with any type of system. So you might have an HR system that you like, you don't have to replace it, but there's maybe something missing there. You could use this to amplify something, right? So somebody joins your HR system, it has maybe 5 or 6 built-in processes, but not the other things. So it can be an amplification. Others have maybe bought a vertical, maybe you have already bought a tool for onboarding or something. And if you don't like it, you could use this to replace it, or you could use it as for other things. So it really depends. Like we integrate with all of our competitors. Like it's not built to necessarily replace all of them, but just like kind of like a spreadsheet. Like it gives you powers of building workflows that people didn't really have before.
Okay, but I mean, from my end, it's maybe as working as an HR manager, but also helping a lot of HR teams. My experience is that HR isn't the best at kind of sourcing funding and getting the budget for an additional system might be difficult. So how really kind of with a low budget, or how can you help HR teams create a business case? How do you usually tackle this?
That's a great question. And I think it's like the good thing about this thing is like for every process you build, it's to save you way more time, right? So in our case, for example, we did a survey, and like, ROI is everything. Like how do you actually make a return on investment? And in our case, like every process you build, let's say it gives you 50%, or like, let's say it takes you 10% of the time to do stuff now with the process versus before, how it was before. So it's a really simple example to do. And I think for us, like the system itself can help you get those benefit reports and show it to you. But I think like we did a survey, and I'll show you some interesting results there. Like we had a survey where we checked, and about a third of this is an actual survey from our customers. About a third of our customers, are already saving 25% of their time, and a lot of them are saving more, 50% or more. And we just see that when you just get started, when you just have one process built, of course, you're not saving like 25% time of all of your admin, you're saving less. But the more you start to use the system, you kind of start to move up this circle here. And you start to see more time being saved because you're automating things. And we asked them like the main benefits, what are those? We put them in this chart. It's like the HR team productivity is huge, admin reduction, team satisfaction. And then, the TI teams are talking about reduced time to hire, employee satisfaction. But I think like the simplicity of it, and like there's a ton of like case studies and stuff about what specific customers have done. But I think the reality is pretty simple. Like if you run a process in a certain way and you now change the way you run it, and that saves you time, like for not just you, but like all of your employees, like all of your stakeholders, that can be quite significant. And people are often surprised like how much time is getting wasted for other people, right? So you might only have something on your desk, but that person is waiting for that. And there might be other people waiting for that. And you might be giving tasks around the entire org here and there, and that all disappears. And that's a huge benefit for the org as a whole.
Sorry for interrupting. We have a question here from Nilan, who's asking, there are a lot of interesting AI platforms out there for specific areas. And are there any end-to-end multiple solutions driven by AI when it comes to recruitment or ATS? Do you guys have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think end-to-end, like meaning like it's always tricky. One system that does it all. I mean, there's a ton of ATSs out there that are trying to add some sort of TA, like some sort of AI functionality within their tools. And I'm sure like pretty much every product in the world will have AI. It's just a matter of a time until it's like enhancing everything you do in the product. So you should be able to buy a vertical ATS that probably does screening really well, or does other components really well, or does, integrations with some other like specific vertical tools that does those really well. And I think there's a ton of them out there. But I think a lot of times they don't have everything you can think of, right? And I think that's the reality. Like now with these AI workflow builders that are out there, you can tell it what to do and how it should do it, and it will work, and it will amplify whatever it is you already have. That like this integrates, for example, with any ATS, right? So if your ATS doesn't have some of those capabilities, just add it, make it amplified, and get the info back. Like that's one way to think about it. And that could be the same for your HRIS or your ERP or your time registration software or whatever it is that you have in mind. Like how should it work in a perfect world? And most tools that we all use day to day, they don't have all that functionality. There's always something missing.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Nilan. Keep them coming, guys.
And I mean, my take on, especially, I mean, I'm from the recruitment TA space, and I wrote a book about innovative recruitment a few years back. But I think what many of the new startups that are coming and are kind of trying to create this totally automated end-to-end recruitment are missing, especially now since the European AI Act is coming up, and more we see legislation both in the US and in other countries around this topic, that we don't really want AI to fully make the decisions on people's selection. And I think, I mean, you showcase a bit of solutions that AI kind of does this selection some parts. So I'm a bit unsure, because what I believe in the future, we will not hold AI unless we really can understand how the process works. And today with LLM, we really most of the time don't.
You're spot on. And I think governance is huge. So first of all, like you can't have an AI make a huge decision that has an impact on people's lives fully automatically. You can't have an AI firing people because it wants to. Or you can't have a poster in your window where people apply and it will literally fully screen them and onboard them. The tech is already here. You can use our tool to do that. You could configure it with other tools to actually have it do that, but you can't. Like legally, you can't. And even like in some countries, legally you can, but there are even the models have their own policies. Like OpenAI has a policy where you can't have it use those sorts of decisions or controlling electrical grids or flight systems or stuff. But what you can do, you can have the AI as an amplifying tool where it runs these processes, and you can see exactly how it did it for every single individual, what conclusions it came to, what prompts are being used. Now, that's very different from using a chat-based tool in your company. Like when you give a Copilot or a Chat GPT to every single employee, you have no idea what they're using it for, right? But this is like a way where you can build a workflow. It will, like a request comes in and will only look at the request content. It won't put like the PII data in there. It will only come to a conclusion that goes one way or the other. Like there's a lot of way to configure it. And I think that's like controlling how you use AI in your workforce, like where, how, why, if it should be fully automated or it should be a human in the loop. I think that's where the big benefits really kick in, and that's something that's like the vision I think we want for AI in the future as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be taking baby steps, because I think many people are unsure and they want to be human in the loop, at least in the beginning, before they see that it's really trustworthy or not. So I think it's a process of change as well, if we're coming into that. So to the background of my startup is really focused on kind of the change aspects of AI transformation. So I believe this is something we and most companies kind of don't focus enough on, because I believe the real change isn't which tech we're going to use or how the process is going to be involved. I think it's really about changing human behavior. That's going to take a long time. And especially in the future where we see more and more automation, what's going to happen with our roles? I mean, do you tackle these kind of bigger questions as well, or how do you help your customers with this topic?
100%. I mean, we have teams that do this all the time. And it's really about thinking like, so it's 3 steps in my mind, right? It's like the first step is just mapping up how you do stuff today. How are you doing stuff today? And just take one process at a time. How do you do it? Once you've done that, you can think, how do I do it with an AI, maybe somewhere? And just take one example, like one workflow. Like maybe if we would do it exactly the same way, but we'd add this small AI agent here that would do this. And when it's done, it would just tell us what it thinks. Like it's not going to run it. Just like baby steps, right? Just take it one step at a time. And you can then put that live and see how it works and continue that path forward. Step 3 is something that very few people are at, which is like, how can we rethink and redesign the entire process now that we have AI? Maybe we shouldn't do it the same way as before and add AI. Maybe we should do it completely differently. And it takes like, until you really have harnessed like using chat-based AI a lot, you built a couple of workflows. Well, until you really gotten to that place, you can't just leapfrog it to the final one. Like the org isn't ready for it. And so in my experience, that's worked by far the best. And it's like, it's often these redundant, like I'll show you one super simple example, which I think is like a lot of people, I think often relate to this. It's like, let's just take this guy here. This guy is applying for a visa, right? Now, he is going to work at your company. He's applying for a visa and he submits this photo. Now, if you submit this photo to whatever background check thing you have going on, it might be a police department or some other entity that reviews it, like, will it approve this photo or not? That might take weeks until they actually have time to review it. And the reality is, like, you could just manually copy paste this into an AI, like, hey, we're hiring this person. Is it going to approve this photo or not? But you could also make it part of a process. So instead of manually doing this stuff, you're going to have the AI just check it. And the AI will come to the right conclusion. Like the background is wrong, the head is turned, and he's smiling. Like, and it will not fall through. So just like this could be a large process of getting someone on board where a visa, passport, issuing is part of it. But it's just one component of that process is just checking this. That's like a really simple way of thinking. This is how we did it before. Now we've added AI into one place, and it's making a lot of difference. Like you're not maybe waiting extra weeks. And we literally have customers like in the aviation industries that are dealing with this. Like they have to send something to a third party member, like a police department. They need to check stuff. And the police will take weeks to do that. And if something is off, like they'll have to start the process again. So if you have an AI checking first, is everything here okay according to law and processes and those, you save a lot of time. So often it's like devil in the details. It's different processes for different orgs where these things can really matter.
Yeah, I think because it's a bigger question, right? And what's going to happen with the future of organizations? And I think is HR getting ready to have these difficult discussions as well? So I think it's a larger question in general, but I think we that's going to be a big topic in the end. But how do you address like GDPR and questions like that? Because I mean, when you have these kind of language models, your data is going through to a different source, right? So here you are using your employee information oftentimes. So how do you really
we just had a question from one of the viewers just on this topic. Susanna from Vend here says that they're just starting their AI process and building out their AI automation. Our transactional AR processes. Our two biggest hurdles at the moment are around data. Both the sensitive data that the HR questions could be, and also the quality of the data. AI will only be as good as the data you feed it with. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, 100%. Like this is, she's absolutely right. Like when you're, whatever vendor, for example, you're buying services from, just to kind of, showcase some of the thought process here. Whatever you're like, you want to know like what tool, like what AI models are they using and where are they hosting it, right? And so like you host it in your basement. There's little or no risk. It's not connected to the internet. You host it in a data center in your own country. It might be, a safe option, or at least in your own continent. Like if you're in Europe, for example, it matters a lot that it's in Europe. It could be hosted in the US. For some, it's fine. For those of you watching who are not in Europe, for example, maybe US is fine. You probably don't want to host it in places like China. And so when you're like buying from a vendor, you want to know like what AI models are you using? Where are you hosting it? And then the probably more important question for the European companies watching, like, where's the EU data residency? Is that enabled? Like, do you have contractual contracts with like OpenAI or Claude or whatever tools you're using that to make sure that everything is actually processed within the EU borders? Because if your vendors don't, it will actually go like for OpenAI into the US, it will get processed there and the response will come back. This can matter a lot. It's like these two questions are basically the ones that I would always ask. The second one is like, do you have what's called zero data retention? That means you're not using any of this information to train on our customer data. So these two are like these are kind of the basics in my mind. Like whoever you're working with, if you're a European company, make sure these two are okay if it's related to HR. And then, and pick vendors that have that. And most of like all the mature vendors have it. A lot of the startups are kicking off and doing it. They have this secured, but these are things that are kind of responsible to do, especially if you're working with HR type of data. And then it's like what data goes in and doesn't go in. Like if you have a chatbot access for all of your employees, like they can put whatever they want in there, right? You might give them guidance on what not to do, but they could go into a system which has sensitive data, copy it, paste it, put it in, and you kind of lose control of that. When you use these workflows or certain products that you buy that only use AI in certain places, they will only have the context that they are configured to have. So in terms of, let's say, a workflow builder, somebody fills out a form about a request. You can put only the AI action can only take information from the request. There's nothing to do with the person. There's no PII data going in there. It's just looking at the request alone, nothing else. And then it comes up with a response and continues. And I think that's really critical, because like this governance part of seeing like, where are you using AI? For what purpose are you using it? How have you used it to date? Which are all like, you have a list of all the people who have gone through it. You can see all the details. That's huge. This governance part is really big. And a lot of people are just not looking into having any overview of these things within their org.
No, and I think that's true, because I think most people are into trying different tools, but they don't really understand the dynamics of the legislation and what it will mean. So I think that's really critical to have that kind of opportunity to really go back and showcase how it's been done and what are the different steps. So that's a great feature, definitely.
I also, Nicholas, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just about to say that we had a question kind of on the topic as well, as you're just saying, Thomas, that there might be some resistance from the company to start implementing AI solutions. What have you seen as successful kind of strategies in order to implement AI?
Yeah, so first of all, I think there's like a misunderstanding to some extent with it. Like the reality is that every product in the world, every single product in the world will soon have AI built within that product. Every single one. And we always talk about AI products today. I don't think we'll talk about AI products. I think we'll just talk about products, and they will just do whatever they do, and we will expect them to have AI. And that AI can be placed in many places. It can be used to summarize a message or record a meeting and give notes. It can do all sorts of things. It will be the norm, right? So it's sometimes framed incorrectly, like about them. But like, I think it's important to think about like, okay, so when we talk about AI, like what are we specifically talking about it will do for us? Are we talking about using AI to kind of outsource our own responsibility for the work we do? Don't do that. Like you are hired to do a certain task, and your employees are as well. And you can give them AI to amplify their work and get better at the work and ask AI questions and, get responses that are, making it better, but they can never outsource that responsibility. And I think that's often something that people misunderstand. They think that we're going to stop having our employees responsible for the work they do, and we're going to just hand it over to the AI. That's not what's going to happen.
I agree partly, but I mean, my experience is and my kind of view on AI is similar as you described, that AI is supposed to kind of help augment us, help us deliver more value and adapt the way we're working, right? So, but at the same time, I mean, I think people are afraid because of how the media especially are portraying AI, and it's going to change everything. And I mean, even the kind of Nobel Prize winner within economics said that within 10 years, 90% of tasks will be automated or eliminated somehow. So I think there is real fear about this topic, and if we get started with AI, what's going to happen? So, but at the same time, that's what I kind of face within my trainings and within people.
Right.
But oftentimes, if not every time, people are at the same time after the course much more motivated and see that, okay, this can really help me remove all this boring stuff that I'm doing repetitively and kind of deliver on another level. But this also means that some positions will change, or on some roles may vanish as well. So I think you need to really understand in your business context how you're gonna kind of attack AI, and what is your vision in the future? How will this kind of progress? So I think it's a really crucial question, and it needs a lot of thought into it. So that's why I think it has a much broader scope really than.
I think you're right. But I also think it's good to simplify things. Like, AI is here and it's not going away. There's no scenario where it's not going to stay. And so you can either use it or not use it. And the companies that will use it, they will be, as an organization, they will have like lower costs, they'll have better performance, they'll have happier customers, they'll have happier employees. Like that's the de facto, right? So you can choose to like get on the train and learn how best practices are with the best practice tools and start to be a part of that, or you can wait until it will automatically happen. Somebody else that knows this will replace people who don't, or the company itself, if it refuses to participate, most of them will just lose to their competitors. So those of us who are in the private markets, like this is the reality that we're facing. And then there's the other thing, like but of course we want to do it in the right way. We're not talking about like automating everyone's jobs and just everyone, everything, we will lose everything. Like I fundamentally believe it will change. Like, and I think one of the big changes when it comes to HR is a lot of the admin that we're still doing will get automated. Like all the boring stuff that doesn't need human to human deep connection and certain strategic thoughts, like that's gonna get automated because it can be. Like nobody wants to go from a motorboat and to oars back. Like when we have the tech, the same will happen here.
No, and I think there will be the demand from the employees rather to come into a company, and that it's a manual process. It's gonna take me 3 weeks to get an. Why it takes me? Last employee took me 5 seconds to get a response. So why would I choose this company? So I think that's gonna be, but it will take probably more time than most people understand to overcome. But definitely, I see it as the future.
I also want to, just so people don't like overcomplicate how it can get started. Just like kind of these two phases, right? So you have like, if you kind of look at like today, you kind of have like, you can do this, right? You can build up forms and it will trigger a workflow, right? And it can be anything you want. It could be a parental leave or 100 of these, and it can be started by employees or managers, whatever you want. That's like step one, right? Map up one of these, 2 of these, 10 of these, whatever. Then and you can have a portal for your employees or others to do those things. And that's already there. The next step is sort of this part where you kind of go into the video we had at the beginning, where you say, okay, we already have these building blocks. We already have all these requests figured out. Now let's allow people to trigger it from here, just like when they do in a form. And like these things aren't crazy to do, but like this won't work unless you have this in place, right? Yeah. Like how are you going to trigger these things if you haven't mapped it up somewhere? And it's like, I think oftentimes people, because they're afraid of the unknown. And so in order to not be afraid of the unknown, the best way to learn stuff is to learn by doing. It's not by reading those books or just go into the webinars. It's try something. It could be this product. It could be other products. Figure out whatever works for you, but like try it, because trying it will require you to learn 30 things. And that really is the best learning experience. That is the thing.
And I agree. And I see many in Sweden, they are going into Copilot, and you said it, Copilot as well. And is it even possible to, add it into kind of Teams channels or
Teams, Slack, Copilot, anything you can think of? Like, it can be anywhere. And I think that's the other thing. Like it's called, and that is the trick here, Thomas. It's like, how in a perfect world, like that's what people should start with. In a perfect world, how do we want these things to work? And I fundamentally believe in a perfect world that people will just want to go to tools that they're familiar with. I think most people have started to get familiar with chat-based AI. Like 10% of humans on the planet are just using ChatGPT. And because they've learned it, they've learned the interface. They don't need to learn other things. And it's going to be much more simple to just tell them, just ask the AI a question. Instead of saying, go to this company portal, it's here, it's there, fill it out, whatever. And they forget the URL. And so I think that's the and if you start with the perfect customer experience in mind, you can then kind of work your way backwards towards the tools and apps and services and providers and stuff you need to make that happen.
No, and I especially think there are so many systems out there. You need to go through different ones. And I think that's for HR out there really because that's what I believe. We need to change the mind shift. And I think especially in Sweden, we've been kind of building up and I think especially from outside of HR, people have a view on HR that it's policies, rules, and it's like they're coming for this and that, and pretty regulatory. But I think really HR should be about how do we help our employees to become the best that they can be, and help our organizations to really create the value from our employees, right? So I think I'm more of a product-centered approach, where how can we solve these issues for our employees. So I think that's where kind of teams like, how can we make it easier for them to apply for another job internally, or how can they get reimbursement, or whatever. These kind of internal processes needs to be linear and easier.
And it would be awesome to hear from the crowd as well. Like we have I think an interesting question. We've published a bunch of questions, so please fill those out if you haven't done it already. But there's like a really interesting one, I think, Nicholas, which is like the biggest blocker to scaling AI in HR. So we all have different blockers, right? And so like is it your fragmented systems, or is it something else? Like, it would be really nice to see what the audience has been dealing with, and maybe the answers aren't there in the poll. Like write out what's there. Because I often find the most interesting insights from all these talks that we do online here. It's just like when people are sharing, like, this is what we're struggling with. Like you mentioned before, budgets, like afraid of AI or the data storage, or some other, like people are afraid of losing their jobs. Like there's a different type of categories. I'd love to hear from the audience, like what they think. And
here. How do you think AI will affect young people in the first work in the area of HR?
I think it's going to be, you want to take it?
No, I think this is the best time ever to be like a 20-year-old or 25, something entering the workforce. Are you kidding me? Like the kids that are in universities today that have been using AI for 2 years and are joining a workforce, and they've been using AI for like everything and how they learn stuff, and they're doing it so differently from when I was studying. They are entering the workforce and just going, what the hell is going on here? Like, this sucks. This is terrible. They are expecting so much more from the employers. And, team up with those folks. Team up with the young people and ask them how they would want the perfect experience, because they probably are getting it right. They're probably getting right what will be closer to the reality when you've figured it all out and set it up. Because these younger folks, they are using the newest, most modern tech products in their day-to-day lives on their smartphones, and they have a lot of insights. And we've seen some of the young folks that we've hired, like the stuff they're building and the ideas that they have and how to build it. Like, it's so much new creativity that I just would embrace in the workforce as much as possible.
Yeah, so I wanted to address it as well, because we see already, and I really thought about this a few years ago, but within management consulting and within legal, we see a lot of these newer juniors having more difficulties in getting into the market. It's not as broad yet, but we see some studies that showcase that these kind of super junior roles, especially for like within legal, you're supposed to, your first job is really to read a lot of documents and kind of learn along the way, but also give insights into the senior managers, right? So these kind of roles are already being replaced by AI, doing the work in less than a few seconds, a medium or even better sometimes. So the question is, for me, what I see is that how are we going to learn a new job if we aren't able to have this in learning period? Because school is not going to be enough. So how do we really solve that solution? I don't see, that's going to be a tricky question. I don't see HR really that big of an impact on this issue, but definitely more junior roles will need to be more qualified.
There are societal challenges with AI for sure, but I also think we don't know all the answers. It's amazing to read reports. If you read reports from 94, 95 from the top analysts in the world about the impact of the internet, they were all wrong, right? They were all talking about the internet. There's a famous report from the top analysts at the time talking about how internet would get split into email and internet. That those weren't the same thing. If you look even further back in time, you look at when the car industry came along, people are so worried about all the blacksmiths that would go out of work of working with the horse carriages and horses that were there. And then we had the automobile industry booming, and we had way more car dealerships and things popping up that nobody thought about. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of challenges with AI, and there is the junior roles is one of them. It's one of those that I really personally worry about, because yeah, you used to hire junior people, you used to show them the kind of simple things to get started, that learn and that grow within the workforce, and those jobs are going away. So what will happen instead? I don't know the response to it, but I do think other newer business types will get created, just like they have in human history. Every time new tech has come along, and new roles will come along, and I think the people who are in, like, I'd even argue, I'd worry more about the older generation that doesn't learn how to use tech, and that they might be out of sooner.
No, but I agree. I do think that it's not always necessary to do all this learning to that kind of do your, what do you say in Swedish, hund or the dog here. So what do you translate that to English is a different question. But I think people young age are very formable. So I think they will learn faster, and with AI to help them, teach them what it is, what it isn't, together with senior employees will be more effective. But at the same time, I do also see we'll see a larger number of trainee roles and kind of these free learning roles, really. So people will get really low or none pay for kind of getting into a job and learning the ropes. So I think that's really my main two roles.
And I also want to say, like,
so we have a couple minutes left until the hour is out. It's been a quick ride. If you have any last few questions that you want to throw into the chat or the Q&A, please do, and we'll try to answer those. Otherwise, we'll also get back to you after the show. But in terms of what you're talking about now, we have one question here from Bruce asking, how do I stay relevant with HR in the next coming years? Or sorry, not HR, with AI in the next 10 years?
Yeah. How do you stay relevant? I would use it as much as you can, instead of like just solving a problem or your next task that you have. Explain to the AI how you think you're going to solve it, and ask it if it has a better idea of doing it. Try out the new tools that are coming out, play with them, try and use them to solve problems in a different way. I've personally developed my skills faster than at any point in my life in the last couple of years, because using these techniques, it's been incredible to see, and it's amplifying so many things at work and around businesses that I've seen using this. So I would highly recommend that, because I think the reality is, nobody, like, people that say they know how these things are going to fully develop and go, they're just, they don't. Nobody really does. And you can listen to interviews of the top CEOs, the top startups in the world, and there's basically a large unknown gap. And I think the only way to truly know how to be prepared is to try what's out there, see what's working, and do whatever seems to work best for you. And I think you'll be further along than most people.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of extend on that, I think curiosity and any more structured form of curiosity, because I think there will be new tools and new uh, developments within AI continuously. So you need to really have an flexible mindset that maybe this isn't today, but tomorrow it might be another. So I always need to kind of keep an ear out and be curious about what's coming and trying out many things oftentimes. So I think.
I wanted to share
We
just
have
one
another
slide
question.
before we head out, Nicholas, just for those, because we're heading out of time as well. It's just that if you guys want to know more, we'll actually be in London next week on Tuesday. I think I'm not sure if there's any, I think there's a couple of seats left there, but we'll also be in Stockholm on October 14th with Johannes and other amazing people from HR Tech Meetup there. So we'd love to see you in person there. And if you like, you can just, if you want to know more about what the stuff that I'm doing, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Constantly, sharing some thoughts on these things and ideas. And also, if you want to just take a free checkup meeting, you can book a talk with our team just to kind of see if this is more relevant for you to understand it. So I just want you guys to know this. I think we can share this as well afterwards. I'm not sure if we have like emails for everybody, but if not, you can take a screenshot of this or just send me a message on LinkedIn. I just wanted to note that. But I think, I mean, we've covered a pretty long distance here, I think, Nicholas and Thomas. I'm kind of wondering if there are any last question that you see, Nicholas, that you think is like spot on, or you, Thomas, that you think we should end this with.
I think the bank of questions in terms of AI today is endless. But yeah, I think to finish off also, Thomas, is there anything you'd like to add or any
I think my main really is to get started and try. I think your solution, to be honest, I've tried different automation tools, but oftentimes more complex. I think yours is pretty, so far, the most easily done. So I think just to get started, but you need to know your processes. You need to do the work beforehand, but commit to the time. I think don't be pushed into the next agenda, to really create time for yourself to find which processes to start with, and then just take one step at a time.
Awesome. And for all of you listening, I just thank you so much. If you want to know more about AI and HR, follow us. If we haven't been able to answer some questions, we'll follow up with you directly with email. And just, would love to see you at the next event. So thank you so much, Thomas, Nicholas, and all of you listening. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.